This episode is brought to you by Monogram. Welcome to the Design Dash podcast, your guide to designing a life you love. Join us as we explore the keys to living the life you want without compromise. Hey everyone, welcome to the Design Dash podcast. I am your co-host, Melissa Grove, and I'm here with my co-host, Lori Mansky. And you just had us today. So we're going to talk about something that we want to talk about because it's really been a hot topic, I think, in our community, the Design Dash community. Check it out if you haven't already. But we're going to talk about design agreements today and contracts. And I don't know if anybody has the definitive answer on the perfect contract. Everybody's contracts are different. Some of them are 30 pages long. Some of them are 10 pages long. Everybody wants to change their contract and make it better in some way, but maybe they're all okay. I don't know. So Laura, where do we want to start? Because we had a conversation with our community last week and everybody has questions about contracts. What do you have in them? How long are they? Do you ever have clients push back on them? I mean, I think we've had all of the above.
Man, where do we start? I guess, so ours has changed over time. So I think that's important to talk about, just because when you start your business, you may start with just a pretty simple contract, and that's okay. And you can get a contract from AIA, which I think we have, we've looked at before. That's not what we use, but we have referenced it. I believe you can get a contract through ASID. I've never looked at that one, so I don't know. But there is a place to start, I think, if you don't have a contract that you feel like is robust, or maybe you don't feel like you can engage a lawyer to draft a contract. Plus, our industry is so specific. So where to start? Where do you start? AIA, I think, is a good place to start. And if you are a member, I believe it is free or pretty low cost. If you're not a member, I think you can just buy it. But it is a good place to start. It covers a lot of the main things that you need to see in a contract. Mm-hmm. So our contract, I guess length of contract is a topic that comes up quite a bit. And ours has changed over time. I believe it's about 11 pages.
It is.
Okay. So I think it's important first to talk about the difference between a proposal for your work and a contract or design agreement, because they are two, at least at our studio, they are two different things. The proposal is what we submit to a client or a potential client after we have met with them, we understand their project high level, we pretty much know what we're getting into, and we're ready to propose our fee and scope of work. General, just high level. Our proposal, I think, is about 6 pages.
Yes, but I think it needs to be. I'm not bothered by the length there. It's beautiful. I mean, it's a sales document is really how it is.
And that's the difference. So proposal is a sales document. It's laying out those very early high level terms like, hey, I'm going to design your single family residence. It's about 5,000 square feet. Our scope is renovation of primary suite and kitchen and full furnishings. This is the estimate for the time. Here's all this beautiful stuff about the firm, and you are in good hands. Here you go, potential client. This is the sales document. That is a really easy conversation to have. Like that proposal, it's beautiful, and their clients are excited to see it. There's no legalese in there for us. It's very high level. All the legalese lives in our design agreement. That is not beautiful. I'm sure you can make yours beautiful if you feel like it. Ours looks like a contract.
Yeah.
And they get that after they have approved the proposal. So look at the proposal, all looks good. That actually gets attached to our contract or our design agreement as an addendum or a attachment. I don't even know, really. Whatever you call it. So that everything they've agreed to in that proposal is then acknowledged in the contract. And we call it design agreement. Do you have a preference, actually, Melissa, for what we call it, contract versus design agreement? You may not. I do, but
I don't. I mean, design agreement, of course, it just sounds more elevated and elegant. Contract, I mean, that's like something I have in my cable company, right? Like, it's just not. it's not as sexy or exciting, but it to your point, like the actual contract or design agreement itself, it isn't sexy, but it's not supposed to be. So I really like the fact that we separate out the design agreement with the proposal. Um, and of course, we're attaching the proposal because the contract is what it's referencing, right? So they have to come together. The clients are signing both. But yeah, I mean, I know that there's a lot of challenges that people have with design agreements because there's you're being invited into someone's home, and with that comes a lot of liability that we're trying
Yeah.
to mitigate through a contract. And so the lengthier it becomes, just the more troublesome I think it can seem when you're giving it to somebody like a potential new client that you absolutely love. You really want to work on the project. You don't want the design agreement to be a hindrance, but you want to protect yourself. Um, so I know we've worked really hard to get our design agreement as concise as possible. I think it used to be much longer. I think at one point it was 25 pages. Um, I think this is as short as we can get it. So I know that everybody is concerned with a shorter design agreement, but there really is a threshold. Like you just can't make it any more brief than it is.
Yeah, and I think we've made ours pretty concise while still protecting ourselves. And so right now it's 11 pages.
Mhm.
Um, so I think let's talk about what's included in it,
Yeah,
just
and what's really important for
basically
us.
what's included with it, and then what clients may object to after. So I think the things that are included are obviously who the client is and all of the basics, like where's the project, what's their billing address, um, who are we as a company. We have our how we bill is in there. Our we bill hourly and we're on a professional fee schedule, and so our fee schedule is in the design agreement. There's also a note about us being able to change our fee schedule. Should some of these projects last 3 years or
Yes.
it could be longer. And so over that amount of time, we need to be able to control our hourly billing rate, because it's going to get more expensive for us over time. So we need to be able to raise that within reason.
Absolutely.
So that's all captured there. Um, we don't put the estimates for the project in there. Like, let's say we think it's going to be between $40,000 to $50,000 in design time. We don't include that there. That lives on the proposal, which is
Right.
attached. But what we do include is our retainer amount. So we do ask for a retainer, and then how we bill after that retainer is exhausted. That's in there.
Yep.
Admin fees, all of that, like any fee schedule information is first,
Yes.
because they need to know how they're going to pay. I think some other important clauses for me, and I'm thinking of the ones that the clients mostly would object to. Photography, project photography is a big one.
Yeah.
This is one that gives clients pause sometimes if they're really private, or if maybe have some sort of celebrity status or a high profile career, they may not want to be included in our marketing. And that's okay. They can strike that clause, but we do have it in there automatically.
Yes, and I have talked to some designers in our community who have a separate agreement for photography. I think they
Hmm,
have it in their main contract, but then as they get closer to the installation, they want to reinforce that in some way. And that's okay too. We don't
that's
have a
smart.
separate contract for it, but we will let them know, "Hey, we're getting ready to photograph. Here's what you can expect," and all of that good
Mhm.
stuff. And I will say, we've also never forced it upon a client who didn't want to photograph. We've never forced that part of the clause, or you have to
No.
respect their privacy and their want.
Yeah, for sure. What's some other stuff that we have in there? Oh, how we procure furniture. That's huge.
Yes, that's a big one.
So how we get our deposit for furnishings orders, that we are handling it in-house. We don't have to. That's in our contract. They can purchase directly if they want to. Some designers will have in their contract that furniture has to be procured through them. We don't. So client can procure themselves, but they rarely do. Sometimes they do partially.
Yeah,
It'd
some of the
be kids' room here and there, and it's all retail, and they just want to buy it. Fine. But we do have it in there that if you do procure through us, this is how that works. We request deposits at these intervals. We're 100% paid before we install, etc. We have a couple notes in there about installation, I believe, like a pet secure your valuables, secure your
right.
pets, that kind of thing. What else? What else is big in there? I mean, there's all of this like
Force
legalese.
majeure is big, like, if we can't get to your house because there's a flood in Houston, then we're
Yeah.
not going to be there, and, I mean, these are, of course, very rare situations, but that did come up a lot during COVID because we were in Texas. We weren't as strict as some other places around the country, and so there were some clients who didn't care if we were in the home, didn't care if we wore
Mhm.
protection, they still wanted their project to go off without a hitch. But then we had some team members who, were some of them were immunocompromised and didn't want to be in another person's home, and so we were protected in that way with the contract. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we just worked around it. We were able to
Yeah.
to make it a good compromise for everybody, but that's also a good way to protect yourself too, and I mean, there are some horror stories out there about how some clients who I mean, I don't think that we've ever experienced this, knock on wood, but that haven't been friendly or sometimes even the opposite of that with team members. And, of course, you wanna protect your team in that sort of scenario too, being able to
Yeah.
keep that
And
con
so we do have the termination clause for that reason, but it's also so the client can terminate as well if for some reason it's not going the way they want it. We don't want to force anyone to work with us ever. Like we are here for guided design experience. We want them to be guided and feel taken care of and that we are advocating for them. So if it's not working out, then break up with us,
Yeah,
please. But vice versa, if for some reason our team is unsafe or um, feels maybe not intimidated, that's the wrong word, but like unsafe, I think, if it's an unsafe site condition, or maybe they're experiencing some sort of verbal abuse from a builder that isn't being addressed, or even the client themselves, we have the right to step away. So we've added some of these things over time. And that's something I think is important is that you can add things as they come up. You
yeah.
can't anticipate every scenario. So you can add or don't because it may just be a one off and you're not going to run into that again. Does it have to be in your design agreement or your contract? I don't know.
That's true too. There's one thing that we've often gone back and forth about including in the design agreement is communication expectations, because we know of
Mm,
some designers who are really want to be rigid because they've been burnt in the past. So they will put into their contract, you can only contact me between these times. You can only contact me at a certain phone number, no texts on Saturday mornings. And we haven't added that into our contract. I
no.
don't, there's something about it where I just feel like it's good for us to manage that expectation ourselves, but also you may want to contact that client. You may really like that client, and you're like, "I don't mind talking to you,"
Yeah.
late on a Thursday night. So I never really wanted, and I think you as well, we never really wanted to pigeonhole ourselves into this corner of, um,
No.
limiting the communication. The communication is the most important part of it.
We'd like to thank our good friends at Monogram Appliances. We've partnered with Monogram for over a decade with our design firm, Laura U Design Collective, and we're so happy to partner with them in producing the Design Dash podcast. Monogram sources the highest quality materials for their appliances, from commercial grade stainless steel to unscratchable sapphire glass. Monogram ensures lasting beauty and unmatchable quality for your luxury kitchen. And not only that, but they have an amazing team who we love working with, and we know you will too. So thanks, Monogram.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, so I think there are some things that don't have to get added, right? Like you can just communicate that outside of the
Yeah,
contract
we've
or outside of the
self-regulated.
proposal. Is there anything where we've like been like it's come back to bite us in the ass that we did not have it in there? Can you think of anything?
Well, construction administration was something that we have
Oh,
dynamically changed over time, not necessarily because it's bitten us in the ass, but because it's been a major challenge with clients who say, "Okay, I don't wanna do it. Okay, but now I need you on site twice a week because I
yeah.
really need you there," and then we weren't really protected in the contract. So I know that we've gone through some, like, minimum amount of site visits before, we've really tossed that around in the contract quite a bit.
Yeah, and I think we've really addressed CA just in the communication aspect. And it's also in our proposal because
Yes.
construction administration or being on site throughout construction is a separate phase for us. We don't estimate it ever. I can't include it in our estimations because I don't know. And oftentimes builders and clients don't know unless it's a builder that works with the designer all the time.
Mhm.
They don't know how often we're going to actually need to be on site. And so that is separate. We just still bill it hourly, but we make it a separate conversation with the client, and it comes down to communication. I think that's what's beneficial about billing hourly for us and having that in our contract is that we can add services super easily. There's no renegotiation. It's hourly. Yes, we can do that. Sure. So that's why we always go back to, I'm a big advocate for hourly billing. That's a whole other conversation because other people are adamant that's the wrong way to do it. And I think there's an argument for both. So, or a combination. Let's see.
Where do you see pushback on the contract? I don't think that it happens very often, but
It
where
really doesn't.
are the places where people are like, I don't know. We talked about photography. That can get stricken from time to time.
Yeah, I think it's interesting actually that we don't get a lot of pushback. So when I first started and I finally met with my lawyer and I had this robust contract drawn up, I was really nervous to present it to clients at first because I was like, oh my God, I'm really asking them to like sign their lives away here. But I think surprisingly, we don't get a ton of pushback. It's those clients that push back on the legalese that give me pause. To me, it's a red flag.
Yeah.
We are not asking that much in our contracts. So those that really do push back, that I have to engage my lawyer again, I've got to pay my lawyer to like review their comments and see if we want to incorporate them. It's those that I'm a little like, this may not be a good fit.
Right. And it's always the indemnification, always the indemnification clause.
Yep. It is the indemnification. You're right. And I don't even totally understand that. That's why I have to kick it back to the lawyer because I'm like, I don't know. Can I do this? I mean, is this going to like crush my business? I don't know.
What's interesting though is I feel like most of the attorneys that we've had as clients, they see that and just like, oh, de rigueur, whatever, sign.
Yeah,
like I don't think we've ever had a problem with the attorneys who understand that legalese, which suggests to me that what we have in there is pretty fine.
It's fine. Or they feel like it doesn't matter. They could just sue us into the ground anyway. But so like the clients that we have that are attorneys typically just sign. And really the clients that get what we do and see value in our service, they just sign. Yeah. It's really the ones that I know are a red flag. And this is not to say you can't ask questions about a contract. Obviously, like I do it. Maybe I'm a red flag, but I do it for other people where I'm like, I don't know what that means. Can you tell me? But like if it's a legit concern for any reason, we'll consider it.
No, of course.
And there have been times that we've adjusted our contract for everyone because a client had a very valid concern. We're like, yeah, that makes sense to change. So sure. I'm not opposed to changing, but it's those that come and like redline the hell out of it. Those clients.
Or that like, one time where we had a potential new client who said, I don't want to work on a contract at all. Like I've been with a designer before. Sir. We never had a contract. And it was just like glaring red flags, like sirens going off with that one.
I know. Yes. Like we won't sign a contract. Then I'm sorry, we cannot work with you. Yeah. So if you don't have a contract, if you're listening to this and you don't have a contract in your business, I would suggest at least going to the AIA website. You can get it. It's not expensive. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, just grab it and use it. I mean, adjust it for your business, but use it. I think you have to have something.
It legitimizes you too. I know that it seems scary, but you're a real business when you're working underneath a contract. You want to protect yourself. You want to protect your team. You want to protect the integrity of the project, and the clients are protected too.
Yeah, exactly. It is to protect them too. Like there's no nefarious language in our contract that's one-sided and just protects us and is going to hurt our client. That is not the intent. And I think that intent is important because we're going into this just to like, yes, we are legit. We need something on paper that protects you and us. And here you go. Like, let's design your house and make it wonderful. And this contract we're never going to look at it again, knock on wood, because nothing bad's going to happen. I don't know. Have we gone back to our contract? The only time I can think of is when we had to break up with a client.
Yeah.
Because of a little bit of like abusive behavior. Mm-hmm. That's really it.
I know. See, we really shouldn't be worrying about the contract so much because at the end of the day, there have been very few challenges.
Yeah.
And questions. Nothing that was insurmountable. Like nothing that was easily.
I feel like we shouldn't even be speaking this into the universe. knocking on wood here because
I just know that it worries a lot of designers out there, especially emerging ones who may feel like, oh, what do I put in this contract? Like I did just buy this off AIA. Is this going to really protect my business? And I think the short answer is that yes, like
yes,
90% of the time you're fine.
yeah, I think so. I think, yeah. So you have a proposal, that's your sales document, lines out the general terms. They agree to that. Then you have your contract or your design agreement. I like the words design agreement, just to go back to that really quick.
Yeah.
I
The
think they're
words are
soft.
important. I mean, the
They're
semantics.
softer.
Yes.
Design agreement feels softer. It's not so intense, I think. But I don't think there's any, like, we're not dressing it up. We are not putting lipstick on it. It is a black and white legal document. So yeah, we're calling it design agreement, but we're not hiding it. Like, it is a contract.
Yep.
Yeah, there's never a scenario where I wouldn't have one. Never.
Mm-mm.
What else? What else can we say about contracts? Good God.
I mean, I think that's it. They're a must. Don't be afraid of them. They're there for your protection. They're there for the client's protection. And I mean, honestly, there is some flexibility as long as it's written in an appropriate way. Like, we have eliminated a lot of the things that we eliminated. They were just redundant, and
Yep.
it wasn't anything that was absolutely necessary. It was just repetition. So I think that's how we were able to get hours down a little bit, and the fact that we attach the proposal. So we're not including as an appendix or an addendum. Like, we attach the proposal. So I mean, technically our contracts altogether are about 16, 17.
Yeah, 17 pages, something like that. Yikes, that sounds long.
It does sound long, but I mean, we've heard from some designers there are 30 plus because they account for every little thing.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we don't account for. There are some designers I've spoken to that in their contract they'll say you get 2 options, right?
True.
You get one revision, and we're hourly again, so we just don't work that way. We try not to
Yep.
limit our clients to what you were talking about yesterday was we always want to say yes, and
Yeah.
I think that's just a part of the process, is that it's effortless for them, and
Yep.
so that's why we don't include stuff like that.
Yeah, and with hourly, it may feel it is open-ended, but we do put parameters around it by estimating,
Yeah.
a window. We give them a window of what it can be. But yeah, I guess your contract is going to be longer if you are fixed sum, flat fee, and they get very specific things within that box, which you have to be so specific.
Uh-huh.
And then what happens when they go outside of that? That is detailed. You've got to get very detailed about that. Or just go hourly.
Right. Take 10 pages off your GA.
But this is something that we discuss in the Design Dash community. And if you're interested in checking that out, you can just go to the website, design-dash.com. And there is it's not hidden. It is front and center. There is a go to the community button. And so you can go there and jump in on this conversation, because we would love to hear from you. Or just on socials. Like, we would love to hear from you any way. Like, what are you doing with your contract? How are you proposing your services? How are you protecting yourself? What are your clients saying?
Yep. It's important for us to talk about, so then we can really craft something that works for the industry as a whole. So we're not operating by ourselves.
Yeah, I know. And there is I say there's no industry standard contract, but AIA is probably the closest.
Yeah.
To standard. And even that, as an interior designer, I don't know covers what we do precisely.
It's a long one, and they offer different contracts, percentage of construction, flat fee, just depending on how you bill, and they're lengthy. And yeah, oftentimes don't apply to what we're doing. So,
well, check it out. It's a place to start.
I mean, that's where we started out, and then we were like, we'll do this.
I don't know that I can recommend going to Chat GPT and just saying, "Hey, write a contract for me."
Yeah,
maybe it can.
Attorneys would be too happy with that.
Yeah, I think our lawyer would fire us if we did that. But check out the community if you are interested in continuing the conversation. We'd love to hear from you there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our next podcast, coming live next week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. In the meantime, you can find us and more wonderful stories like these on design-dash.com. And make sure to follow us at Design Dasher on Instagram and TikTok. Till next time.